The inside should be a texture that the French call baveuse, which is, I don't know, drooly is what it translates to, I think. The outside is set, but then on the inside you have these really sort of tender, kind of juicy curds. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Kenji. Today we're going to be making a French omelet. So a French omelet, depending on if you're in France or in the US, is going to be a slightly different thing. Our conception of a French omelet here in the US is that it's supposed to be completely free of color, really sort of soft and tender on the inside. Whereas in France, if you just got, if you ask for an omelet, it could be actually a wide variety of things, the same as it can be in the US. And some old cookbooks will describe an omelet as being golden brown on the outside. Some will describe it as being pale golden. So really, if anyone tries to strictly define what a French omelet is to you, you can tell them they're wrong no matter what. All right, so one of the difficulties of any kind of egg cooking is telling how hot your pan is. The trick that I like to use is I put a little bit of water in the pan. Doesn't really matter how much water, in fact. Just enough to cover the bottom, though. And so the idea is that when you're cooking an omelet, in order for the omelet to not stick to the pan, whether you're using a nonstick pan or something like a carbon steel or cast iron pan, the best temperature for the pan to be is just above the boiling point of water. You basically want your butter to go in and start foaming immediately, so that sort of layer of air and steam helps keep the eggs from sticking to the bottom of the pan. But you don't want your butter to burn too fast. So that's going to be just above the boiling temperature of water, because that's the water inside the butter that's boiling off that's causing that foam. So the way we do that is we regulate the temperature of the pan by putting some water in there. As long as there's water in there, whether it's boiling, as long as there's boiling water in there, we know that the entire bottom of that pan is going to be regulated by that water, because it cannot get hotter than boiling water until the water has completely boiled off. My general rule of thumb is for an 8-inch pan, you do about 3 eggs. For a 10-inch pan, you would do 4 eggs. But of course, you can do however many eggs you want. But I want to have enough eggs to make sure that I can get like a nice layer of sort of soft curds on the inside, so that you have that contrast between the outside of the omelet and the inside of the omelet. All right, so I got 3 eggs in here. Season it with some salt. Get a fork. I'm going to pop my yolks and then beat them up like this. I'm going to make this omelet a couple times just to show you a couple different techniques. But this is really the most basic, simple one. We want our egg to be really nicely beaten and homogeneous. Salting the eggs before you put them in the pan, by the way, or before you start beating them, it helps dissolve some of the proteins in there so that your eggs they don't tighten up as much as they cook. And you'll get an omelet that retains more moisture and is more tender. Okay, so my eggs are looking good. I'm going to grab some of these chives just to have for when the omelet is done. Okay. All right, so we got our water boiling in here now. I'm going to swirl it around just to even out the temperature of the pan, and then I'm going to dump the water out over here. All right, so now at this point, when I put the butter in, it should start foaming pretty much immediately. So that's what we want, butter that's foaming, but not burning. We want to make sure to get the butter nicely evenly spread around and up around the sides of the pan as well, so that our eggs don't stick anywhere. All right, so I'm going pretty high heat. I'm going to get my eggs in. And now at this point, we want to start agitating. So I'm going to use the bottom of my fork, and you might say, oh look, you're using a metal fork in a nonstick pan, it's bad for the surface, or you're going to scratch it off. What I'm trying to do is keep the fork kind of floating above the bottom, so that I'm not actually really touching the surface of the pan at all. You see, I'm shaking with my left hand and shaking with my right, and that's how we're going to get sort of that maximum agitation and make the finest curds. Once we get to about that level where they're still a little bit wet, I'd lean the pan away from me so that all the eggs kind of collect down there. And then I can just use my fork, just the tip of the tines, to roll up the omelet like that. Okay. And then to get it off the back end here, I'm going to take my pan and just bang it. See, and it'll ride up the end here. And then I can fold that over. And our omelet has a nice little seam. Now we swap hands, turn it upside down, and there we go. This one came out very, very light golden. We can use slightly lower heat if you want it just real pale yellow. You can do that with the next one. So we'll take a little bit of butter. Give it that little glisten on the outside. And I'll take some chives. Put them over the top. You can do a little bit of fancy sea salt if you want. And a little bit of pepper at the end. I don't like to mix the pepper into the omelet, just because I find that it gives it a. It's just really an appearance thing. I don't like those little black specks in there. I'm gonna cut this open and show you what it looks like on the inside, just so you can see the texture. So you can see how kind of juicy it is. You know, the inside should be a texture that the French call baveuse. You know, which is I don't know, drooly, is what it translates to, I think. So you can see that. So you've got the outside, but then on the inside you have the outside is set, but then on the inside you have these really sort of tender, kind of juicy curds. All right, that's omelet number one. Let me quickly wipe out my pan. All right, for the second omelet, and again, we'll do a little whoop. We'll do a 3.5 egger here. That egg had a little crack in the shell, and I don't know my own strength. 1. No, half. 1.5. 2.5. And 3.5. Clean as we go. All right. I think there's probably a French name for that technique also. All right, we got our water boiling again. So we got a little bit more water in there just to make sure that it doesn't overheat while I mix up my eggs. All right, so this time what I'm going to do is I've got some more butter that I've cut into really, really fine cubes. You know, so if your omelet isn't quite rich enough for you, or you want it a little more tender, so this is a technique actually I saw first. My friend Charles Kelsey, who he runs a sandwich shop in Brookline, Massachusetts. We used to work at a Cook's Illustrated magazine together, and when he was developing a recipe for an omelet, he used this technique where we put these very fine cubes of butter in the omelet, into the egg mixture before he started beating it, with the idea that as the eggs cook, the butter melts, and the butter sort of keeps them tender and adds some richness. He told me that he saw this technique he said he found this technique from his friend Francis Lamb, who is now the host of The Splendid Table. So I actually called up Francis, and Francis told me that he learned the technique from Daniel Boulud. So there's a lineage to this technique that I'm using right here that goes back to Daniel Boulud, and I don't know where he learned it. He probably learned it as an apprentice in France somewhere. But either way, it works really well. These days, actually, what Charles does at his restaurants when he makes his scrambled eggs, he blends the butter and eggs together in a blender. So he makes this kind of like this completely homogeneous mixture where it's basically eggs that are blended with butter before he scrambles them or makes omelets out of them. I've never tried that technique, but I might next time. Okay, so our pan is ready here. Dump out the water again. Get our pat of butter in there. You got some immediate foaming going on. So again, we're gonna shake with both hands, and we're gonna let the fork kind of float above the surface of the pan. This time I'm gonna show you how to stuff your omelet once you're done. Okay, so we got nice loose curds here, tilted away from us so that they're collecting the bottom there. We're gonna gently roll this side forward. Lift that side up. Give it a little bang. There we go. This one's going to be a real bavouze one. Let's see. Sometimes, let's see if this works. Ready? We're going to flip it over just to give the bottom seal a little bit more of a seal. All right, rest there for a second. All right, I think we're good. Okay, same thing. So flip the pan, hold it backwards, backhand like that, and then kind of roll the omelet out. And once it's there, we can use our fork to give it a little bit more of that classic torpedo shape. Okay, so here I've got some a filling for these omelets. This is basically just mushrooms that I've sauteed with some butter. I finished them off with a little bit of a little squeeze of lemon juice and some soy sauce. Season them with a little salt. Get a little pepper in there too. Right, and a little bit of butter at the end, high heat to emulsify that water and butter together so that it makes a sort of sauce here. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll take a knife. We can split our omelet open. Give it a little bit of an opening here. Golden crack. And then we spoon our filling inside. And we can take some of this sauce also and do a little drizzle around. We'll finish this off with some chives as well. All right, and that is how you make a stuffed French omelet. I guess I'll take a bite and do the thing. Ready? It's gonna be good. Really nice and tender on the inside. I like the way the sort of the buttery, saucy filling kind of melds together with the liquid eggs in there. You know, you might have seen these videos on the internet of this restaurant in Kyoto called Kichi Kichi Omuraisu, where they take an omelet like this and they spread it over rice and they open it up and it's like kind of completely liquid on the inside and the omelet flops over. I mean, that's essentially made the same way as this. You just do it with more eggs and a lot more talent and skill, and it comes out that way. But you know, that's sort of the goal with this style of omelet. You want this outer layer that's barely holding the insides in, so that the insides are really nice and soft and tender. All right, French omelets, guys, gals, non-binary pals. I will see you next time.